Good morning, everyone. I'm Assemblywoman Jody Giglio, the ranking member of the Assembly People with Disabilities Committees, and I am proud to represent the 2nd Assembly District in the New York State Assembly. Thank you to everyone for being here today in our state's capital to address an urgent issue, the challenges facing New York's early intervention program, which provides critical support for children with unique abilities during their most formative years. Special thanks to the Assembly Minority Leader, Will Barkley, and the Assembly Minority Conference that he leads with distinction for standing with me today. This program isn't just another state or governmental service. It's a lifeline for New York families, offering vital therapy and support for children from birth to age 3, a period when 80% of brain development occurs. These early connections shape their futures. Yet today, thousands of families and providers across our beloved state are struggling under the weight of a system that isn't delivering as it should. The rollout of the new EI Hub system, intended to improve security, efficiency, and performance, has instead created significant disruptions. Children are left waiting for critical services, providers are fighting to get paid, and families are caught in a bureaucratic nightmare. All too common in New York, unfortunately. For a system designed to help, it is tragically failing spectacularly. Let me be clear. We appreciate the efforts of our New York State Department of Health Commissioner McDonald and the entire Department of Health to address these issues. We understand the challenges of overhauling such a complex system, but good intentions alone do not get children the therapy they need. We've all heard the stories. Providers spending hours on data entry instead of delivering services. Families waiting weeks, sometimes months, to see progress. Therapists who give their all to support our children, struggling to get the paychecks they've earned. Meanwhile, as the system falters, it's our kids who bear the brunt of these failures. Take Laura Dakin's granddaughter, Nova, for example. As reported by CBS News, a young child born premature who began receiving life-changing therapy early on. Her grandmother describes the incredible progress Nova made until the new system went live. Now her services are delayed because Nova isn't even listed in the database. It's heartbreaking and completely unacceptable. We need action. Real immediate solutions, not just tweaks to a broken system. This isn't about fixing a glitch, it's about fixing lives. Here's what I, along with my colleagues, are demanding today. A dual system approach. Keep the existing system operational alongside the EI Hub until all the issues are resolved. Families can't afford to wait while we figure this out. An independent, comprehensive investigation, the EI Hub's rollout has raised serious questions about oversight and accountability. How did this contract get approved? And why are we here today instead of celebrating a smooth transition? Support for providers. Ensure therapists and service providers are paid on time. They can't continue their vital work if they can't make ends meet. This is not just a public policy issue, it's a moral imperative. Every child in our state deserves the chance to thrive, and every family deserves a system they can rely on. To the families here today, your voices matter. To the providers, your work inspires us. And to my colleagues and state leaders, we owe it to these children to do better, and we will. Let's get this done. Not tomorrow, not next year, but now, 2025. The 2025 legislative session is the perfect time to act. The children of New York deserve nothing less. Thank you again for being here. Now let's hear from some of my colleagues and the experts and families who live this reality every day. Their stories will drive the change we so desperately need, and I am deeply honored to provide them a platform to do so. At this time, I would like to invite Assemblymember Ed Raw. He is the ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee that is going to just say a few words, and then we will have Assemblyman Ari Brown say a few words. He will introduce him, and Ari will introduce Assemblymember Mary Beth Walsh.
Introducing Ari? You want me to introduce Ari after me?
What?
Ari after me?
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you, Assemblywoman Giglio, for your leadership on this issue. As the ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee, we're starting again a budget process. We have an executive budget that came out yesterday, and as we go through this process, like we do each and every year, we will talk about how this state spends billions and billions of dollars, and we'll fight for resources for things like early intervention. And people like Jody have fought for resources for this population because we know the data is there of how important this is and the impact early intervention has. And she cited one example, but this makes a difference in these children's lives and allows them to be the best they can be, and they make tremendous progress. But government can't be in the way of that progress. So after we finish a budget and provide resources, we need to follow that through, and that's what really this is about, making sure that this system is working, making sure that there's transparency so that when a provider and a system is selected, the individuals can get the services they need, plain and simple. So my colleague has done a wonderful job leading our conference as the ranker on the Committee on People with Disabilities. I know this is very personal to her. She's met with so many people from not just Long Island, but throughout the state who are impacted by this. So I thank her for her leadership. And I know many of my other colleagues have taken a very active role, from Mary Beth Walsh, and certainly my other colleague from Long Island, right behind me, Ari Brown, who has taken an active role with Jody really throughout the fall as we were seeing the issues that were coming about. So I thank Jody for her leadership, and like she said, let's fix this now. People can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there are any other providers or families that would like to join us up here, please feel free to do so. Love your shirt. Yeah.
Thank you, Assemblyman Ra, and thank you, Assemblywoman Giglio, ranking member of People with Disabilities, for bringing us together for this most important issue. For 70,000 children, early intervention is the difference between a future of independence and a life burdened by ongoing struggles. Yet, the state has failed to provide these children with the support they need, especially after the disastrous rollout of the EI Hub system on October 15, 2024. At the heart of the crisis is Public Consulting Group, PCG, the contractor responsible for developing and overseeing the EI Hub system. PCG, a company with a record of mismanaging Medicaid funds in multiple states, including allegations of fraudulent billing practices, was awarded the contract despite its controversial track record. This is not the only mistake. The state awarded this contract under suspicious circumstances, using a no-bid process that bypassed necessary oversight. In fact, the contract from EI Hub system, worth tens of millions of dollars, was awarded without competition, meaning the state didn't even consider alternatives. The lack of competition is deeply troubling and raises serious questions about who benefited from this deal. Moreover, there are serious concerns about the transparency of the bidding process. PCG was handpicked for this critical project, and there's growing evidence that the decision was made long before any bidding process took place. The process was essentially a dog and pony show, a predetermined outcome that benefited one company, despite its failure to deliver on similar contracts in other states. This contract was essentially a one-bid deal, and the state bypassed important checks and balances to push it through. The contract was exempted for review by the State Controller's Office, an action that not only undermines public trust, but also raises suspicions about the motivations behind this deal. Given the track record of PCG, this is not just a case of mismanagement. It's potentially a case of corruption. By awarding this contract without proper review and by awarding it to a company with a history of poor performance and questionable practices, the state has undermined the very integrity of early intervention program. It is unacceptable that taxpayer money, $53 million in this case, was spent on a system that not only failed to deliver, but also worsened existing problems. Our early intervention providers, those truly on the front lines of care, are the true heroes in this story. They are working tirelessly, often without pay, to ensure children receive the services they need. Many have gone months without compensation due to the state's failure to properly process payments. This is a broken system, and it is the providers who are paying the price. The promised 5% increase in reimbursement rates has yet to materialize, and in the meantime, the cost of living continues to rise. This has left providers struggling to stay afloat, and as reimbursement rates continue to fall, many are being forced out of the system. It has become increasingly difficult for providers to maintain the level of care that our children deserve. Let's be clear. Every single day that this crisis continues, children lose valuable time that they will never get back. The state's response has been to dismiss the legitimate concerns of providers and families, attempting to gaslight those who are speaking out. The lies and misinformation being spread by the state only add to the harm already being caused to children and families across New York. Our demands are simple and urgent. Number one, immediate suspension of the EI Hub system to halt the delays in service and payments that are harming children and families. Number two, significant reimbursement increases to stabilize workforce and ensure providers are compensated fairly for the essential care that they provide. Number three, a full investigation into the contract with PCG, including a review of the no-bid process and the company's record of mismanagement and fraud. Those responsible for this failure must be held accountable. Enough is enough. The state must be held accountable for its failures to protect its most vulnerable citizens, New York's children. Every day this crisis continues is another day that children lose precious developmental time. We will not stop until every child receives the care they need and deserve. Those responsible for this crisis, both in the state, government, and PCG, must be held accountable for their actions. Thank you for your attention today. Together, we will demand change. We will continue to fight until every child in New York gets the services they deserve. Fix the hub, stop the delay, give our children a better way. I'd like to introduce our floor leader, Mary Beth Walsh.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. In addition to the comments that have been so great from my colleagues, I'm so proud of this conference that really has stepped up on this. We've got a lot of other things that we need to do over the next couple of months with trying to go through all the budget hearings that we've got, try to produce, hopefully, an on-time budget. We're not standing here because we have nothing else to do. We're standing here because we care deeply about what has happened here. It seems to me, in my office, almost immediately after the rollout in early October, my office started to get phone calls and from providers and parents who were saying that this is not working. So what we do as legislators is we have contacts within each of the agencies that we can reach out to. And when our office did, we were told we're working on it. And, listen, we understand that when there's a new system being rolled out, there inevitably are going to be bumps in the road. And I was willing to give a little bit of time to have those things ironed out, but we're in the middle of January right now. And we're still just being told we're working on it. And that's not okay. That is not acceptable in my book or in any of the people that are standing here with me today. It's just not. And I just want to say that as a parent of a young man who really benefited from early intervention services, the clock for parents, the clock is ticking. As soon as we know that a child needs early intervention services, we know that the sooner that we can get in and provide quality services, a lot of those kids can catch up. They can get out of a diagnosis that they're in. They can correct and rewire their little minds to the point where they won't require services once they get to school age sometimes. But the whole key is to get in and provide quality services right away. And so this is not just a little glitch or a little bump in the road. This is a fundamental problem in the way that this program is not delivering to our kids in New York that really, really need the services. We all want our kids to succeed. We want our kids to live their best lives. They need the EI services to be delivered. And to do that, we need the providers to get paid, to be able to stay in this line of work. We can't expect them to just continue to be not getting paid for their services. Many of them are single family households. They need this money. So, and they earned it. So I'm here to stand in solidarity. Thank you very much to Assemblymember Giglio, to Ed Rod, to Ari Brown, and to everybody that took the time to be here today to call attention to this really important issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. So this very important topic came to me from our local Suffolk County Association for Municipal Employees. And when I spent hours and hours on the phone with the supervisors of the special education, special needs, and early intervention programs, really a lot that was wrong came to light. And it was very important to have this press conference today. So I want to thank County Executive from Suffolk County, Ed Romaine, for promoting this and for saying how important early intervention is, and for sending a couple of residents from Suffolk County and employees from Suffolk County from the supervision division of the municipality, and then also the president of AME, who is going to talk to you about some of the hurdles that municipalities are having with their employees. And so at this time, I would like to invite Nick to come on up, Nick DeBello. Thank you, Nick.
Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I want to extend a thank you to Jody Giglio. As soon as we brought to her attention the needs and what was happening with this program that doesn't work, she jumped right into action. She got on the phone with our members at the health department, and she took the initiative to learn about what's going on and how could we fix it. What are the kind of workarounds we could do? So kudos to you for being right on top of this thing. To the elected behind you that are standing in support of us and the parents and the providers here, I think we're all in this together, and solidarity will help us get through. My name is Nick DeBello. I represent 10,000 working and retired members of the Suffolk County Association Municipal Employees. We're the largest independent municipal employees union in the state of New York, and I am here on behalf of President Dan Levler. As the representative right now of the workforce in Suffolk County, specifically the Division of Services for Children with Special Needs, I stand here today on behalf of those dedicated professionals who work tirelessly to ensure that families and children receive the appropriate services and the referrals they need. Our singular goal is clear and unwavering: to ensure that no child experiences gaps in service. We can't have that. Unfortunately, the introduction of the New York State Early Intervention Hub system has presented significant challenges that jeopardize the delivery of these vital services. Fortunately, we're in a county with County Executive Ed Romaine, who's worked with our health department to ensure that they have as many local responses and help and support that they can have for the state-run program. So we're very fortunate that he's partnered with us, our employees, and with AME to mitigate the problems caused by the EI Hub. These collaborative efforts, though, are severely hampered by the flaws inherent in this program. So we have workers taking work home with them. We have them working mornings, late nights, through their lunch. The people who do this for the county are there for you, for the parents and for the providers. So rest assured that the municipal employees who play a role in these services being provided, they're taking home the work. They're taking home the angst of not having children getting the services that they need. And so just know that we are supportive of all of you. Thanks to the advocacy of AME members and, again, the support of Assemblywoman Giglio, The legacy New York State early intervention system does remain available to provide crucial information to workers. However, this stopgap measure is not a sustainable solution. The recommendations put forth by stakeholders, they spent 2 years in a sandbox trying to explain what was going on and the needs of the program to ensure that services could be provided. But those stakeholders need to be heard. It's paramount that they are able to influence how the system runs so that we could best ensure that children receive their needs, which is what we're all here for. So thank you for setting this up. Thank you to the media for being here. And again, to all the elected behind us who are supportive of this endeavor, thank you for taking this on. And to the parents and the providers, know at least in Suffolk County, and I assume everywhere else, that you have the support of the working men and women in Suffolk County. So thank you.
Okay, so next I would like to invite up, we have Jen DeLea. She is the Assistant Coordinator of Special Education for Early Intervention and Preschool Services of Suffolk County. Jen?
I want to thank you, Assemblywoman Giglio, for taking the time to let us come here and, voice what we're seeing out there with the hub, and to all the families and providers who came and are here in solidarity, and to all the other Assembly people here, we thank you very much for your time. So, with regards to the municipality side of how the hub rolled out, we saw devastating issues that plagued the early intervention program. It affected our most vulnerable population, the families and children that we are here to service and make sure that they get those necessary services they need. At this time, there have been some fixes and changes to the program. It is working a little quicker. The speed of the program is a little faster. PCG and BEI are meeting with the providers and the municipalities more consistently to try to rectify these issues. However, with that, workflow is still not ideal. The processes that used to take 2 to 3 steps are now taking 8, 10 plus steps. Just to give some quick examples, the referral process at the county level, when we take the child's intake, we have to put their information in and create their account in the hub. That used to take about 7 to 10 minutes, and now can take us easily 30 minutes to get one child's information in. That obviously has changed our workflow. We've had to move people around, shift things. The creation of the child's service plan. This is something that used to take us 15, 20 minutes. We could type it up while working with the family, very fluid, very simple process. Now, there are so many panels and tabs that we have to go in and out of. If information is missing out of one tab, we can't go forward. It's become a very cumbersome process. That can take up to 1 hour now, where it used to take 15, 20 minutes. And you're talking about one child. You have a caseload of over 160 kids. We have about 5 meetings a day. When it's taking you more than an hour to get one in, it's backlogging you on your work and making sure that these authorizations and services and these plans are getting put in efficiently. And that affects the providers getting those authorization numbers and being able to start the services with these children and families. So all these difficulties and cumbersomeness of this program is, again, ultimately affecting the providers getting paid and these children getting those necessary services. County staff, as Nick has mentioned, have been working longer hours. We are a division that never really had overtime. We now have over 6 hours of overtime a week for our employees, and they're still bringing work home. We are very dedicated at the county level. Most of us were providers ourselves before we came into this administrative position. We worked with the families. We've been there. A lot of us are parents of children who went through the early intervention program, myself included. So we know just how important it is, and it really does kill us if we can't get something in timely. We also have a lot of inconsistencies in the program. With some of the changes, it created other issues. Right now, one of the big things, information will go missing out of a plan. One of my service coordinators the other day had reached out to me because the IEP, the IFSP, which is the Individualized Family Service Plan, just ended, randomly stopped. And now these providers don't want to go in until they get those new authorization numbers. We had to create a whole new plan, which again, took a lot of time. Information randomly goes missing. Buttons that are there for us to complete tasks disappear, and they might not show up for 24 to 48 hours. Again, stopping us from moving forward and getting these necessary services and authorization numbers into the program. So we just want to voice today how important this program is to work efficiently. At the municipality level, it starts with us. If we can't get this information in appropriately into this system, it can't get to the providers, they can't get to those kids. So we're thanking everybody here today for rallying and just getting it out there. Again, BEI is working with us. You know, they're great people. They have a lot in the stake in the game as well. They at one point were probably providers or families, you know, that had children receiving services. They are working diligently with us. We just need these changes to happen faster. Big fix would be condensing those panels, stopping those glitches. I mean, everything would work a lot smoother if we didn't have to go in and out of so many different tabs, and if there were no more glitches occurring in the system. You know, we were hoping when this system rolled out, there would be, you know, more efficiency. It would be better than the previous system, but unfortunately that's not how it worked. And we did see a lot of that writing on the wall when we were working in the sandbox is what they called it. We played in that sandbox for about 2 years before it rolled out, and we mentioned a lot of these difficulties we were seeing, yet when it rolled out, those difficulties were still there. So I just want to thank everybody again for being here and letting us speak.
Thanks,
So
Jen.
thank you.
Okay, so next I would like to introduce Jeff Tomlinson. And Jeff, I'll let you talk a little bit about your credentials and what brings you here today with us. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Assembly Member, for holding this event. I'm Jeff Tomlinson. I'm an occupational therapist from the New York State Occupational Therapy Association. I've worked tirelessly on the early intervention program since the 1990s. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is a federal legislation originally signed almost 50 years ago. And eventually the early intervention program is added. Since the 1990s, as I said before, we've had to defend the EI program at least, I count, 9 times to keep this program afloat and keep it going. It's a program that was a covenant to children and infants and their families, and a promise that we have broken. It's a program that's supposed to help children with developmental delays, as the Assembly Member mentioned before, and put them on a path to success in their lifetime. Unfortunately, we've broken that promise, and many of the providers dedicated to helping children at these ages have had to leave the program. They've had to go to work in school systems and find other ways to help children because the EI program is not paying the providers at all, if on time, and they can't make their own budgets, their own home budgets. They can't pay their bills. So they've got to survive, and they're looking for any way possible to help children in the state, and New York State's not supporting that effort. Tens of thousands of children now are going without occupational therapy, speech therapy, or physical therapy services, as mentioned before, during a critical time of neuroplasticity in the brain in which you can make a huge difference in a child's functioning. We're now hearing from teachers and therapists in schools that children entering kindergarten and first grade have greater deficits than ever before, disabled and unprepared for schoolwork. And so we're basically passing this problem down to our local school districts. The legislature and the governor 9 months ago agreed to an increase in reimbursement rates for the EI providers. And it's taken over 9 months for the state to submit a request to the federal government for an approval of that financial increase for the Medicaid component of this program. It took 9 months to just submit an approval request. That doesn't make sense at all, and like I said before, it's simply not acceptable. Then in the fall, as mentioned, the PCG program company rolled out this new computer program that completely failed from day one. As mentioned, therapists cannot transfer cases over, open cases, start treatment, cases have been lost, and it's a complete disaster. So now children are going without those services once again, leaving children without those necessary services. We need immediate repairs to the program, as everyone here has said. This isn't about numbers, this is about children's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next I would like to invite up, Tracy Harris, who is planning to be here today. It lives in Watertown, and they're expecting 4 to 5 feet of snow, so she cannot come. So we are going to have Lacey come and read her testimony, and then Lacey will also talk about a little bit what she does as an independent provider. Lacey, please come.
where's, I don't know. Oh, you didn't bring her? No, I don't have some. I didn't, just do one. Okay, all right. About 20 years ago, I was a nanny for Assemblywoman Donna Ferrara, and I never imagined at that time that I would stand on this side of the podium. So thank you to Assemblywoman Jody Giglio and Assemblywoman Mary Beth Walsh for this incredibly humbling opportunity. Thank you for listening to our voices. This would be so much easier if it was a room full of toddlers. Comparatively speaking, I am still pretty green to early intervention. Many of my colleagues easily have 20 or more years of experience. Prior to EI, I was a special education teacher at the preschool level for 13 years. When I started in EI in April of 2021, there was already chatter about a new billing system and the horror stories of the previous transition. It wasn't happening at that time, so I continued providing services, and in April of 2024, I began providing parent-toddler groups also through early intervention. Given my previous experience, I saw the glaring need for social skill development, and to say that that program was amazing is an absolute understatement. Then came the gremlin, the EI Hub. Prior to launch, I discovered issues that would present errors in billing and asked for them to be fixed. As the weeks in October drew on, I knew something was not right, but it was so difficult to navigate this new system that it felt overwhelming. Even with almost immediate direct contacts within the administration of BEI, my profile was a complete disaster. I was not getting paid for my beloved group. Due to the costs associated with the liability insurance and all of the other back-end responsibilities, I made the heartbreaking decision to discontinue groups for the new year. My hope was that without all of those rejections, I'd at least get paid for my individual sessions. As the story goes, my profile created other additional massive issues. In conjunction with the system's inability to mitigate errors for double billing, I was still not getting paid in full or remotely close to it. During this time, I also tried to be proactive by attending all of the Early Intervention Coordinating Council meetings and pleaded to be added to the stakeholders group. I also had one-to-one sessions with a trainer. I met with both PCG and BEI on multiple occasions, and just last week, I insisted on a meeting with the developer. Given all of those challenges, I'm still struggling. Can you imagine how other providers are doing right now? It has been 15 weeks since the launch of the EI Hub, and all but one of those weeks I've had some sort of issue not getting paid, including Thanksgiving and Christmas. They continue to offer a stopgap payment to help mitigate losses. This required an amendment of your current contract, an average amount that is determined by BEI, and payment that begins when the hub is correctly functioning. At that point, you're required to pay back 25% of the balance at each escrow reimbursement. Can you see how an individual provider would never be able to climb out from underneath this financial impact of the total fumble of the implementation? And it's no fault of your own. And if you still cannot sustain yourself and need to leave EI, you will leave in debt. No thank you. They have already taken back money for claims they were describing as double billed without any communication. I can't allow them to have that opportunity again. Several times, I have requested that PCG create an escrow account that so that providers can submit claims with guaranteed reimbursement, with the caveat that PCG be responsible for billing behind the scenes until they can figure out their own issues. The onus is not on the counties to tap into their own escrow to mitigate this absolute catastrophic disaster. The response I've received on multiple occasions is that it is not possible. Why? Why not on a $53 million contract that has been paid out minus about $800,000? I'm sure that not many people know this, but data on the Open Book New York website indicates that this bogus contract with PCG ends on September 30th of 2025. What happens then? PCG has notoriously given one-year extensions on other contracts in the past. Is this to mitigate lawsuits? This has me deeply concerned. I know my colleagues have gone into much more depth about this, as well as our retroactive rate increase and the proposal to decrease funding for telehealth services. At this point, I would also like to express my sincere gratitude to Senator Rivera for reintroducing the rate-setting methodology bill, which is now A283, that was vetoed in the 2024 budget, and a new bill seeking to increase our rates an additional 11%, and that bill is A1147. I truly believe the rate-setting methodology bill will be the catalyst for supporting our request to be recognized as the professionals that we are, so long as the contract is not awarded to PCG, PPL, or any company associated.
I cannot wrap my brain around the fact that we are fighting over helping babies. In conclusion, my favorite human being on the whole planet, Dave Matthews, always sums up my thoughts so succinctly. Hands and feet are all alike, but fear between divides us. Thank you.
Okay. So now I would like to bring up Grandma Jen. She's going to talk a little bit about her experience with her grandchildren and with working with providers and the progress that the providers make with the children. So Jen, if you could please come up.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Jody Giglio for inviting me as a family member so that we can have a voice in this also. I really want you to see the personal side. So I'm here today not just as a grandparent, but as an advocate for early intervention services for children with disabilities. My two adorable grandchildren, no, I won't pull out my wallet and show pictures, they both have level 2 autism. And I have seen firsthand a profound difference that early support can make. At age 2.5, my granddaughter would scream and cry to communicate anything that she wanted to say no for. Throw, hit, push, 2.5. Now, children are supposed to be able to say no all the time when they're 2. But she also screamed and cried to communicate yes. And even a little bit louder when it was yes. She began to hit her head in frustration, hit her head on the floor, cry tears of agony. It hurts. It hurts to see an adorable girl do that. My daughter would come home from trying to take her to a store in tears because of the embarrassment of the fits that would get thrown. And she would say that she felt like she was a bad parent. And I've had to listen to many, many worries that my beautiful daughter is hopeless at times. At least for a reprieve, how about just one good night's sleep? We were all suffering in this story that I'm telling you. We tried as hard as we could to model yes and no and teach a more functional and less stressful way for my granddaughter to communicate. And it wasn't because we weren't trained. My daughter has a master's in education, and I'm a retired pediatric occupational therapist. So it's not because of that. But it wasn't until her early intervention teacher, Lacey, who you happened to just hear from, who is amazing, discovered that if you sang the question, "Do you want bubbles?" or with any other highly motivational activity, my granddaughter would sing a response, "Yes, I do." This was life-changing. I could ask her if she wanted yogurt as long as I sang it, and she wouldn't scream, cry. The stress level went down across the board in all of our houses. I will never be able to thank Lacey enough for that. children often do not perform for parents or grandparents or direct caretakers like they will direct professionals. There is a huge difference. Now, with the shortage of early intervention professionals, it's taken many months to navigate the necessary steps for evaluations and services for my grandson. Did you know it takes 6 months to get an appointment to get into a developmental pediatrician just to check out if they have a problem? You're already running the clock down, and you're hoping to give the child some time to maybe develop. This is all very stressful for families. Why should already stressed families now have to worry about their child missing out on services during the critical years of their brain development? Why do I have to also have despair that my children's teacher and speech therapist aren't getting paid? And worry that what am I going to do if I lose them? It took so long to find them. And professionals are quitting because they cannot live like this. Early intervention is more than just some good strategies. It's a lifeline for children and families. It also eases the burden on future teachers and the entire school's population. The other children don't really want to hear children screaming for yes and no. Everyone wants children to become productive members of society. Let's not complain when they get to a certain age and they aren't able to do jobs. They're all our children. Everyone's child. They're all our children. Let's fix this crisis so that every child gets the services they deserve. Thank you.
And it is Wednesday morning after a holiday, so most of my colleagues had to leave to go to committee meetings and to prepare for session. But I want to thank everybody for coming today, and my coordinator, Gabby O'Keefe, who really helped put this all together, and all of our staff in the telecommunications and our health liaison. So thank you all for all your help to put this together, and thank you all for being here today. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I also have a list of all the speakers that were here today with their email addresses and phone numbers, so that if you want to use them for resources or you have any questions, you can reach out to them.